Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today what we're going to be talking about, Arken Optics, just Arken in general, and what you need to know when it comes to looking at buying one of these things or maybe even buying another one of these. Got a handful of Arken Scopes laid out here. I actually own one of every model of all these Arken Scopes. Well, I have owned one of every model. There's a couple of them that I no longer have. They just didn't work out for me. But the majority of them I still do have. Been watching some different content, been following some trends with some other scopes, some other marketing and some things like that. And I decided to make this content about Arken Optics, like what you need to know, what maybe you don't already know, or a lot of this maybe you do know. I'm going to start off a little bit with the history of it, just since I've got a couple of these. This is the SH4 Gen2. This is one of the original optics over 10 years ago or so that they started out with. So the company's been around for a good decade. Something that you need to know, one of the things people keep saying when they're talking about the brand is, hey, we're going to see if these guys last and if they stick around, if they're going to make it in this. It's a competitive market right now. And it looks like they are. The line's expanding and they've been around for a good decade. But this SH4 Gen2, this is one of the original scopes here. I've got a couple different versions of this. Let me grab this one here. And the reason I want to show you guys this and talk about it is just letting you be aware that the company is constantly innovating and looking to improve the products that they already have. So this optic right here, this SH4 Gen2 is the actual first shipping set of these that they had. And I really like this scope. It doesn't weigh a whole lot of features in it. This one right here was their next edition of it. And there were some subtle changes to these that you might not even notice unless you had both of them, but it shows that the company is tweaking things and listening to customers, getting feedback from content creators and people out testing these. But these two optics here, real simple thing, a subtle thing you might not even notice. This original one, the black, it's gloss black on this thing. It's real shiny. It looks fine. You know, and there were some people saying, hey, you're going to get a glare off of that. So they matted it out on this one. And then we had some changes to, you'll notice this one says Arken Optics up there. This one doesn't. And they went more to their standard style of putting their logos and the models and stuff. Now, this is an SH4 Gen2, one of the early ones. And you can tell it's got the old Arken logo right there. Now, that's their old logo. And even this SH4 Gen2, this thing has gone through some revisions. Now, I've got a couple of these. I don't know if I've got one here anywhere I can grab it, but this is a SH4. Now, this is the J model, but regardless, you can tell there are some differences on these. Now, what do I got here? These are both a 6-24, and if you look at this, hold these up, you guys can tell. The bell on these, it's shaped different. This area right here is different on these, as well as towards your objective lens right here where it's hooking on. And the only reason I'm pointing this stuff out is these are both SH4 Gen2s. Now this is the J1, it's got the Japanese glass, but even if you had the non-J1, and I've got a lot of the scope because I really like it, there's just differences happening with these, things that aren't advertised, but that are happening with the company. As well as where you can actually get these scopes. Now, I just noticed Midway USA is selling these, Cameraland, all over on Amazon. You don't have to get these direct from Arken anymore, even though I kind of suggested I like the points and stuff, the direct support you can get, and that's questionable, different topic there. But the brand is expanding. These things are in, I don't want to say Midway USA is a big box, but it is a bigger online retailer, and you can find these in more places like that. And more content creators are getting out there reviewing these. More of the guys, like, I'm small beans in the world of doing this, but there's guys that have huge followings that are taking these things out there, and they are giving these optics a very stringent shakedown against the more expensive stuff that's out there, because these have really been coined. Even this EP5 here, this is a Gen1. All of these optics by Arken have been considered budget optics because of the prices not so much the feature sets. And one thing that resonated with me real well with another guy that does reviews and a lot of shooting and optics and stuff was, he put some numbers out there, and I can't remember exactly what they were, but he mentioned something along the lines with one of these EP5s and said, for the money and what you're paying for with a $600 or an $800 optic, you are getting like 80% of the scope of what you would be getting if you paid $2,000 or $3,000. You're getting 80% of that scope for 20% of the money. And those are just arbitrary numbers that are thrown out there. And I would even challenge that for the money, one of these EP5s versus some of the high-end other optics that I've evaluated in some of my other content, and I can still get my hands on those things, but I would challenge it that you are closer to that 95% of the same optic, but for only 20% of the price. So you can get one of these things. These Gen 1 EP5s are, I'd have to look because there's discount codes floating around out there, but I think the Gen 1 EP5 is about $500, maybe a little bit more if you get the halo rings, which work fine, versus a Razor, one of the higher model Night Force scopes. You're looking at $2,500. So you can get 4 or 5 of these, or 1/5 the price, in really just as much of an optic. And for the people who challenge that, I really do question it, that if you've had your eyes through one of these, have you directly compared them? Have you done it? And a few people have. But in doing so, does the Arken optic really hold you back from hitting the target as effectively as that more expensive scope? Now, I'll admit there are some things with the Arken that I would say, I wouldn't call it a budget, but I would say design features that are lacking compared to some of the more expensive ones. There's a lot of complaint about these small Allen set screws that hold your elevation and your windage turrets on. And some of the real high-end stuff, you're going to have a much better attachment mechanism, kind of how Arken has gone to with the LPVO scopes. You're going to have a little twist-on thing or something like that. But aside from that, the usability, the tracking of these, I've had all these models out, and I've never had one not hold zero or track correctly. I've yet to find one of the testers who take these things out and actually put them out there with a ruler and do a bunch of things and have one not track either. So these things are tracking as well as that stuff that's considered premier optics, if not better. Rex is a guy, I mentioned him before. Rex likes going out there with all these instruments and these things and coming up with percentages and that. And the guy even, Rex was one that, if you go back in some of his older content, he even kind of questioned these, but after a while, you got a bit of a chuckle out of him, and he was amazed that, holy damn, this thing actually does track better than some of my high-end schlick and schlock blah European stuff. So the tracking is good on these. The glass is more than adequate on these things, and seriously, when I take them out with the other optics, my eye can't even discern the differences with it. So, but going back through these, some things you need to know if you haven't really had a chance to get your hands on one of these. There's enough retailers now that offer those free returns and you can automatically send it back. If you don't have somebody around that you can get your hands on one of these things, order one up, check it out, and really, if it's not for you and you can truly find a difference why that Arken scope is not going to be as good as that higher costing scope that you have, then hey, switch it out. But I'm here to tell you, I can't find a difference with usability. Now, cosmetic stuff, again, and some of the tinkering things, there's little differences there if that's going to hold you back. Warranty, lifetime warranty on all these things. Even these OGs I got here, if I had something go wrong with this thing, I smash it, miss a shot, it falls down the hill, I can still send this back. Now, is Arken going to have any of these? Not likely. But I'd end up getting probably an SH4 Gen2 in replacement. Customer service, what you need to know about that, that is the hang up, and that is the one thing that perhaps you might be getting with that money that you spend on some of those other brands. Arken's a small company. They've got a couple guys if you're on social media. If you get out into some of those groups that are dedicated to the brand specifically, there's a few employees in there that are really good about quickly sorting through problems of people reaching out to the wrong entities of trying to get solutions for things and getting things fixed for you. So they're doing better in that regard. Shipping is still a little bit slow. It's a thing that people are complaining about. It's a smaller company, overwhelmed with sales, holiday seasons, and things like that. This day and age, everybody wants everything now. I want it. And these guys are a bit slow in that. So you might be looking at an in-stock product. You could get it from anywhere from 2 or 3 days to maybe even 2 weeks. There's a little bit of inconsistency, I could say, with that. But if you're patient with it, you're going to get something that you like. And then there's the whole thing with the lead times. And that's the thing that people find misleading. In essence, what we're talking about is back orders. And Arken does a pretty good job. The web page is continually being updated and made better and stuff too. But those lead times are telling you, hey, we're expecting some in stock at this time. From my experience, what I would say, this is what you need to know. If you want one of these things and if you have the financial means to get it, go ahead and order that thing and get it coming while there's still that lead time out there versus waiting for them to come in stock. I've got a feeling that with more of the bigger retailers actually selling these things now, that you're going to run into some of these popular models that may not show up in stock with Arken for quite a while, or if they do, they're in and out really quick. The EP5 Gen 2, that's what's triggering most of this content. When that thing, well, it's the one, but when that EP5 Gen 2 came out and the LPVO scopes, that EP8 came out, a lot of interest in these things, and they're hard to get in stock. Some of the MOA variants, some of these are hard to get in stock. So if you see it in stock, what you need to know is order that thing up and get it. Same holds true with some of these mounts. I've got rings and caps and all that kind of stuff from Arken that I use on these things. If you see it in stock, you're placing an order and get that stuff coming in. So hey, but I'm going to kind of end it with that. If you guys have questions on any of these, again, I have literally all of the models except for the original EP4 was the one that I offed. That one had a reticle that was so thin that with my eyes I had trouble seeing that even in the daytime. Now that's one that's kind of coveted. It had that cool color. This one's got the silver. That one had a little bit of a bronze, kind of like the Vortex Razor color, a little bit like that. But that scope was pretty coveted by people who really like that fine reticle for target shooting. But I find the ones with a little bit heavier reticle work better, so I offed that EP4. The rest of them, I have them. I will give you guys a honest, my perspective, my view from a guy who's buying these scopes and who's put them on all kinds of different platforms. I've got these on 22s, here's a CZ. I've got these on AR-10s, AR-15s, bolt action, Magnum bores, 300 Win Mag, 308, 6.5 Creedmoors, Grendels, all kinds of 450 Bushmasters. I've got them all on different platforms. I can tell you how they hold up to the recoil. I can tell you how they work out as far as the functions in the cold, in the hot, in the dirt, in the wet, and everything like that with a honest perspective. I don't have a discount code to give you guys to generate any kind of revenue or anything like that. I'm doing this because I use these things too. So, hey, with that, post up some questions, post up your experiences with these things. Been beaten to death with the guys that are impatient with the customer service stuff. I get it. I do try to reply and give people direction to get answers on that stuff. But aside from that, hey, get your scopes, get them ordered up if they are in stock, and get them on your platforms and get on out there and keep on shooting.